We got a few things to consider when creating a home gym and the home library. Here with me today is Heather Boating, who's going to discuss with us how we can do just that. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you so much, Polani.
Now, Heather, there's a lot of things to discuss when it comes to creating functional spaces, but I think the best place to begin is defining styles. You know what I mean? What we just saw was a modern classic home. Functional, comfortable, clean lines. Now, let's talk a little bit about what that means. What are modern classics?
So for me, modern classics, we're going to be sticking with natural materials as well as simple and functional furniture pieces within that space. So I think you're going to be taking a lot of consideration into the items that you bring within a modern home. So you're not going to be just purchasing items for the sake of purchasing and filling up space. You're really going to take your time and to consider the pieces, the furniture, the shapes that you bring into your modern home.
Right. I wouldn't exactly say less is more. It's more about kind of like usability. Take what you really actually need, and it really kind of declutters and keeps the space clean. Now, you mentioned natural materials as well. What kinds of materials are those, and what can we look to bring those in?
So I would really start with that blank canvas from the beginning. We could have a look at a beautiful natural flooring throughout the home, and then really consider the spaces in the bedrooms if you wanted to introduce a lovely plush carpet into those bedroom areas, as well as your multi-purpose spaces. Again, consider that flooring and what you'll be using those rooms for. In particular, home gyms, we're going to be looking for an anti-scratch surface, which might be included into your garage, for instance.
Right. So those are usually kind of rubbery surfaces that you can grip. But there's also kind of natural woods. Is what you're referring to oaks or a vinyl looking kind of oak on the floor?
And the technology with the laminates nowadays is absolutely on par. So you really have your easy cleaning materials with that realistic wood look, which really just softens and warmths a home without providing anything precious to look after in a few years.
Right. Outside of the walls and the floors, of course, what would you consider are the kinds of fabrics and other finishes we should be looking to for a modern classic?
Again, I'm specifying a lot of fiber-guarded fabrics, which really are fantastic usage within homes with small children, with pets, for instance. Again, we're going to be making your home comfortable, modern, yet we don't need to be precious about those finishes and applications that we introduce.
I'm assuming you've brought some examples here. Do you mind taking us through them?
Absolutely. So I think if you wanted to discuss your curtaining, for instance, a lovely linen look voile would be really spectacular, and that's something that you can translate throughout the entire home. Bedrooms, lounge, open spaces. These are the fiber-guarded fabrics which I would encourage of reupholstering furniture.
Especially if you have like pets and children.
Absolutely, and just the cleaning is really just a damp cloth at the end of the day that you would just be able to spot clean and get rid of any marks that do come about. I would finish off with sort of like a matte application of paint on your walls, and then accenting certain areas that you could really just highlight certain rooms if you were having them multi-purpose and designate your space. Some lovely classic brass elements that we can introduce throughout the home. Again, we spoke earlier about those natural finishes in your wooden flooring, your carpentry, for instance, as well as a lovely soft plush carpet that you could bring into the bedrooms.
Right. Now, something we've been discussing, earlier is around small spaces. Now, you've kind of suggested in these modern classic clean spaces, it really is a decluttered space. It's also a very light space, which gives the illusion of space. Are there any other tips you can give us around creating or sort of designing for small spaces?
So I think if anything in the last year and a half's taught us is bringing your eye back inward into your home and considering the spaces and what we use them for. I think everybody's had to get clever with their spaces, and I think that's allowed the opportunity to really consider bringing in multi-purpose spaces. So for me, it would be converting a guest bedroom into an office, which at least has a closed door and allows you some privacy. You could possibly turn that into a playroom if you were having to homeschool and have children. I think another idea would be a garage, which could be a home gym, for instance, which will allow for you to open up the doors and to get some natural light and ventilation through.
How do we create spaces that are functional, uncluttered, yet beautiful, but kind of holding that sense of duality?
So I certainly feel that many homes will have to incorporate multi-purpose spaces. So my tips would be to designate zones to those areas and possibly choose a specific storage or clever usage of storage in each of those zones. For instance, if you had a playroom and a study together, I would make sure that you use clever storage for the toys and all the plays and the games, as well as then maybe using something different to incorporate all your officeware and desk accessories.
Right. Now, you mentioned zoning as a way to kind of demarcate space. I'm assuming that's what you mean. Can you give us a few examples of how to actually achieve that in a space?
So by zoning your areas, I specifically mean that we might be looking at a large enough room that would be able to house different pockets and different purposes. You might have a desk, for instance, but you could have a pedestal that's on a set of wheels that you would be able to move around, which would be able to double up as additional storage that you could wheel into the different zones.
All right. And of course, like zoning is also marking out spaces. If you have one big room that is both spaces, kind of with your wall finish, potentially with rugs,
as well as your furniture used in those spaces. So I think you're again going to be really considering the furniture pieces that you insert. And I think zoning, we could use a sofa to partition different sides of the room. You could have some chairs, for instance, a coffee table, as well as a large enough desk that could double up as a playroom as well as a study for you during the day.
That's great. These are really excellent ideas. Thank you so much, Heather, for sharing so much insights with us today. So thanks for coming.
Thank you.